So I got laid off.
News today, we have more layoffs coming to multiple Bay Area tech companies with hundreds of people set to lose their jobs.
Since the start of 2025, there is uncertainty looming, certainly over the industry.
Hi, I'm Camille. I'm a 25-year-old software engineer, and until last week, I was working at a biotech company. I'd been there for 3 years. I got a job right out of college, and I was making 6 figures in biotech, and it was great. But last week, I sat down for a company-wide meeting and emerged from that meeting 10 minutes later, not knowing if I was one of the 30% of the company that was going to be laid off, and newsflash, I was. I will admit it came as a bit of a shock. I knew our company wasn't doing great, and I knew that biotech as a whole wasn't doing great. Our stock had not been above $1 for weeks and weeks and weeks, so that's never a good sign. But I was cautiously optimistic going into this company-wide meeting. I thought maybe they would just be announcing budget cuts, but no, they're laying off a third of the company, and it's unfortunate because I really loved my job. I had a wonderful manager. I loved the team that I worked with. And for context, I was a software engineer on the bioinformatics team, and so my role was to process lab experimental data for the scientists and present the data to them in a way that made sense. A lot of it was genomic sequencing data, which I really loved. I got a degree in genetics as well as computer science from college, so I really liked the biological aspect of it. And I think this was a great role for me because I didn't really want to just work in tech. I love coding, but I didn't really just want to work for, a Google or a Meta. I wanted to work somewhere that I got to exercise my knowledge of biology as well. So it was really cool to get to work on code that was directly solving biological problems. Obviously, it's a little scary. Losing your job is scary, especially losing the stability of having a paycheck come in every 2 weeks. So here's what I'm doing as my next steps now that I've taken a minute to process that this happened, in case someone else is in the same position as I am. I need to quickly figure out my financials and my budget to make sure that I am not caught unaware of having a stable income. Luckily, I got really good severance pay. I got 3 months of severance pay. However, this is going to be deposited into my account in the next couple of days as a lump sum. And I don't know if this would work for other people, but for me, I can't see that number in my account and budget that effectively. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to immediately transfer that into my savings account. And then every 2 weeks, I will distribute a paycheck to myself that's basically the same as what I was getting for my job. The benefit of putting it into a savings account is also that I have a high yield saving account through Discover, and so by putting all that money in there, I'm earning interest on it as it's sitting in that account rather than just keeping it in my checking account and not making any interest on it at all. It won't be a significant amount of interest, but you might as well make some free money while you're at it. Given that I have 3 months of severance to rely on, I'm really fortunate to have the cash runway to not need to immediately start sending my resume out. Don't get me wrong, I'm planning on doing that pretty soon, and I don't think it would be smart for me to wait till towards the end of the 3 months to start even looking. However, I will be taking about a week or so just to completely chill. I'm gonna take a minute to take a break, figure out what I really want for my future, and go from there. Once I start that process, I'll need to 1, update my resume, 2, begin to look for roles in my field, and 3, start applying. Tech interviews are complicated in that they're very technical, not the best wording, but they are very technical. You actually have to kind of study for tech interviews when you're applying as a software engineer. They ask you very specific questions that are, about algorithms or about implementing certain things. So part of my process will probably be studying for those as well. Luckily, I want to apply for just biotech roles, not necessarily a FANG company or those big tech companies. So the interview process probably won't be the same as you would go through as a normal software engineer. However, I do expect there to be some coding questions. I've played around with the idea of just applying to straight software companies, but I really do like coding for something I'm passionate about, and that for me is biotech for impacting patients' lives. The company I was working for before was working on cancer cures, and that's really impactful to me, and I like knowing that the lines of code that I'm writing are indirectly or directly having a impact on someone's clinical treatment. And I don't think I would be super fulfilled just writing code for software that helps businesses or something. However, it might end up being that I don't get to be that picky, and I might have to take a job that's not biotech, and that's okay too. We'll figure it out as we go. I'm choosing to take this as an opportunity rather than a setback, and the reason for that is that I think it's really easy to get complacent. My job, I was making 6 figures, so it was very easy to not pursue other side hustles or other creative endeavors, because if I just went to my job every day and I did my job, I was getting a steady paycheck every 2 weeks that fully funded my lifestyle. But I've always had these ideas for other passion projects that I want to work on, and they would just kind of get brushed under the rug because I didn't need to work on them. So now that I have this kind of looming deadline of 3 months that I need to have a job, and also I have all this time and I don't have work taking up a lot of mental energy, I really do want to use this time as a time to, how many times can I say time? Jesus. I really want to take this period to focus on other side hustles and other passion projects that I haven't been able to devote energy to before. And I think that the urgency of not having a job and knowing that instability is coming as far as financials means that I'll be a little bit more motivated to work on these things, because I think a lot of these are things that I can monetize and I just didn't need to in the past, but now I can, and now I kind of need to. So all that to say, now I kind of have this unique opportunity where I can kind of evaluate what my life looks like outside of corporate America and figure out how to add that into my life as I move back into corporate America, and or explore passion projects that end up being able to keep me out of corporate America. That would be the goal, but you know, we'll see where that gets us in 3 months. Here's kind of what else I will be focusing on in these 3 months. 1, my product. I've been sitting on this product idea for probably a year now. I even bought a 3D printer to build a prototype of the product. I'm really passionate about it. I will be making a video soon describing what it is, but I think I'm going to apply for a patent for it, so being a little gatekeepy for now. My problem is that after working all day, it's really hard to get back on my laptop and use my brain in the way that was needed to design a prototype. I actually taught myself CAD, computer-aided design, in order to build this prototype, and after coding all day, sometimes you just can't get back on your computer and do that. You can't use that same analytical side of your brain to work on a new skill and work on problem solving in that way. So I think that now that I'm not coding all day, I actually have the time to put my mental energy and my mental focus into designing that prototype. And my goal by the end of the 3 months is actually to have a working prototype and potentially a business plan for said prototype, as well as working on patent applications and figuring out all the sides of business that I need to, you know, starting an LLC, working on fulfillment. I know the tariffs are gonna make this a lot harder of a process, so we'll see where that takes me, but that's the first thing I'm going to be focusing on. Next, I'll be focusing on my YouTube channel, this one that you're watching right here. I have 9 subscribers right now, so we'll see where that takes me, but I love YouTube, and I've really loved creating the videos now that I'm not just a passive consumer of YouTube, but actually creating YouTube videos myself. I've really loved this process, but again, alongside the prototyping process, while coding isn't necessarily creative in the traditional sense, it's not like an art form, you have to come up with creative solutions to problems. And so with a YouTube channel, that's exercising your same creative muscle, even if it's a different way. You're, you know, brainstorming ideas and figuring out how to film and everything. But I did find myself a little burnt out from work at the end of the day, where it was harder for me to work on YouTube videos. And so I was really only working on them on the weekends, but then things come up and the weekends are the only time you have time to go do those things, like go to events, hang out with your friends, because you're working the rest of the week. So I found that I wasn't putting as much time into it as I wanted to. And I know people do YouTube full-time as they're also doing a full-time 9-to-5, and I commend them. That is so impressive to me. I'm gonna take the fact that I don't have a 9-to-5 right now to really dive into this YouTube channel and figure out what kind of creator I wanna be and figure out, you know, set my channel up for success so that when I do eventually go back to corporate America, I kind of have the skills that I need to keep working on my videos. Other things are just things that kind of fuel my soul, you know, not just side hustles, but also I live in San Diego. I'm gonna go to the beach. It's hot girl summer. I don't have a job going into May, June, and July. That's wonderful. I will be at the beach endlessly. I will also be spending a lot of time with my dog. She's gonna be so spoiled. Can't spend too much time with her. She's gonna get used to it and then not realize when I have to go back to work that I can't just pay only attention to her. Also, really wanna reacclimate to a regular gym routine, and now that I don't have work to get to, I really have no excuse to be in the gym every single day or every day with a couple of rest days. I actually started a 8-week fitness program 2 weeks ago, so it kind of landed at perfect timing with the layoff, because now I can solely devote myself to that, and I'm really excited to make a further video on how that process is going, but definitely changing my fitness routine and getting back into the swing of regularly going to the gym. And luckily, if I build that as a habit for 3 months, then it'll be easy to seamlessly integrate it into my life once I do have another job. Layoffs are really scary, and my heart goes out to anyone that's also experiencing this. I've been hearing them looming on the horizon with the general state of the economy, and I was concerned, but I didn't think, you never know when it's gonna happen, and I should have probably been a little bit more prepared than I was given the state of the economy, but I wasn't. So my heart goes out to you if you're experiencing the same thing. It's tricky. I know I'm extremely privileged to be able to get such a decent severance package and be able to have the cash runway to, be a little bit pickier with my job application process and also have time to focus on other explorations of passions. And I plan on making more videos about my job application process, specifically tailored to software engineering, but also in general what I'm doing to fill my time while I'm laid off. So if you would like to follow along and see where that journey takes me, feel free. Thanks for watching. Bye.